Let me tell you what really happened in Cedar Grove Estates last summer. You know those suburbs that look like they were designed in a lab for maximum perfection? Manicured lawns that could win awards, kids riding bikes in synchronized circles, and every house painted the exact same shade of neutral beige, because God forbid someone picks a color that might offend the HOA gods. That was Cedar Grove Estates. On the surface, it was the American dream wrapped in a white picket bough. Underneath, it was a pressure cooker run by one woman who treated the neighborhood like her personal fiefdom. Her name was Karen Voss, and yeah, the irony writes itself. 52, real estate broker by day, self-appointed queen of the cul-de-sac by night. Perfect blonde bob that never dared move in the wind, pastel cardigans buttoned to the throat, and a smile that could freeze lava. She'd been HOA president for 9 years and had turned community standards into her own little dictatorship. Paint your shutters the wrong taupe? Fine. Grass half an inch too long? Another fine. Leave your trash can out 2 minutes past pickup? You'd better start packing. My neighbor Jake Thompson was the last guy you'd expect to become public enemy number 1. 40, IT consultant who worked from home. Widower raising his 9-year-old daughter Lily all by himself. Lily was the light of his life, quiet, bookish, and the pool in their backyard was her safe place after losing her mom. Jake had poured every spare dollar and weekend into that in-ground pool. Not some flashy resort thing, just a clean 20 by 40-foot slice of blue heaven where they could float, laugh, and pretend the world outside didn't exist. He told me once, "It's the one thing I can give her that feels like normal, you know?" The war started on a sticky June Saturday. Jake was out back timing Lily's cannonballs when the doorbell practically rattled off the wall. He opened it, and there stood Karen Voss, flanked by 2 board drones holding clipboards like they were carrying the nuclear codes. "Mr. Thompson," she said in that honey-dripping voice that somehow still sounded like a threat, "we need to discuss your backyard feature." Jake raised an eyebrow. "The pool? County approved it last year. All the paperwork's filed." Karen's smile tightened. "County approval is cute. The HOA covenants, section 4.7, clearly state that any amenity visible from the street must serve community benefit. Our annual Summer Gala needs a centerpiece. Your pool is perfectly positioned. The whole neighborhood could enjoy it. Think of the photos." Jake actually chuckled at first. "Big mistake. Mrs. Voss, with respect, it's our private pool. For my daughter. Not a photo op for your party." The temperature dropped like someone flipped a switch. One of the drones actually gasped. Karen's eyes narrowed to slits. "Rules are rules, Mr. Thompson. The board has already voted. We'll send the formal request tomorrow. Cooperation would reflect well on your property values." She turned on her heel, leaving the threat hanging in the humid air like cheap perfume. Jake closed the door and just stood there. He thought it was over. It was only beginning. The first courtesy notice showed up 3 days later. Not about the pool. Karen was too smart for that. It was about the mailbox flag being the wrong shade of red. Approved color was apparently burgundy blush. $50 fine. Jake paid it to keep the peace. Then came the rose bushes, height violation. Then the pool fence allegedly visually intrusive, each letter more creative than the last. Neighbors started acting weird. Mrs. Henderson across the street suddenly found urgent gardening every time Jake waved. Mr. Patel crossed the road like Jake had the plague. At the block barbecue that weekend, the conversations dried up the second he walked up. Someone had started a whisper campaign. "He's not a team player. Selfish with community resources. Bad example for the kids." Jake tried to laugh it off over dinner. Lily was pushing her food around, eyes down. "Daddy, why doesn't Mrs. Voss like us? Sarah?" Wait. Jake's late wife's memory hung heavy, but he was doing this alone now. Would have known what to say. He just squeezed Lily's hand. "It'll blow over, kiddo." But that night, staring at the stack of notices already taller than his coffee mug, Jake felt the first real twist in his gut. This wasn't about a pool. This was about power. And Karen Voss had decided the Thompsons were the perfect target to remind everyone who really ran Cedar Grove. But that was just the warm-up. By week 3, the fines were stacking like bad poker hands. Jake had a folder now, color-coded, because the guy was an IT nerd and detail was his love language. He paid the small ones, argued the ridiculous ones, but the mailbox was already $450 deep and climbing. Then the inspectors started showing up. Not county inspectors. These guys wore fake badges that said HOA Compliance Division and showed up at 7 a.m. on Saturdays with clipboards and smug little grins. They measured the pool fence, took pictures of the rose bushes from every angle, even walked around the side yard claiming visual pollution from children's toys. Jake stepped outside in his robe, coffee in hand. Who authorized this? The lead guy didn't even look up. HOA board directive, sir. Standard procedure. Standard procedure for what? I never received notice. Karen's voice floated over the fence before the guy could answer. Mr. Thompson, the covenants allow unannounced inspections when community standards are at risk. Your property is clearly a risk. She was standing on her side, arms crossed, looking like she'd just won the lottery. Jake kept his voice calm, but his knuckles were white around the mug. You're trespassing on my opinion, Mrs. Voss. The pool is private. End of story. She smiled that razor smile. Rules are rules. If you can't keep up, maybe Cedar Grove isn't the right fit for you and your little girl. That one landed like a slap. Lily had started getting teased at school. Your dad's the pool hog. Kids can be cruel when adults feed them poison. Jake watched his daughter retreat into her books, shoulders hunched, and something inside him shifted from annoyed to quietly furious. He started documenting everything. Timestamps on every letter. Photos of the inspector's fake badges. Even recorded phone calls where Karen's voice dripped with fake concern. We just want what's best for property values, Mr. Thompson. Don't you care about your daughter's future? The isolation got heavier. The neighborhood Facebook group, run by Karen, of course, posted passive-aggressive memes about selfish neighbors. Flyers appeared on doors. Protect our community standards. Jake's house was the only one circled in red. People who used to borrow his ladder now looked away. One night Lily asked, voice small, Daddy, are we moving because of the mean lady? Jake hugged her tight and lied through his teeth. No, baby. We're staying right here. But inside he was raging. This woman was trying to bully a widower and his kid out of their home over a damn swimming pool she wanted for Instagram likes. Jake installed the first security camera the next weekend. Small, discreet, pointed at the fence line. He told himself it was just insurance. He had no idea how right he was. The fines hit $12,000 by the end of the month. One notice even threatened a $250,000 structural noncompliance penalty if the pool wasn't made available for community use. Jake sat on the porch that night, Lily asleep inside, staring at the glowing blue water that had once been their happy place. The water reflected the security camera light like a quiet promise. He whispered to the dark, You want a war, Karen? Fine. But I'm keeping receipts. The twist hit at 2:13 a.m. On a Tuesday. Jake's phone buzzed on the nightstand, motion alert. He opened the app half asleep and nearly dropped it. There was Karen Voss in night vision green, climbing his back fence in yoga pants and a hoodie like some discount cat burglar. She dropped into the yard, glanced around, then walked straight to the pool gate. Jake watched in real time as she pulled a small tool from her pocket and deliberately loosened the latch until it hung crooked. She snapped pictures from every angle, muttering into her phone the whole time. If he doesn't hand over the pool for the gala, we'll bury him in fines until he sells cheap bylaws or whatever I say they are. Jake's blood ran cold. She was manufacturing violations. On his property. At night. He kept recording as she planted a piece of broken plastic near the gate. Evidence for tomorrow's inspection, no doubt. Then climbed back out like nothing happened. By sunrise he had 4K proof. He didn't confront her. Not yet. He called his old college buddy Mark, now a paralegal. Mark watched the footage and whistled low. Textbook harassment. Trespassing, vandalism, fraud. Send it over. We'll sit on it until she overplays her hand. Karen overplayed it that same afternoon. She called an emergency HOA meeting and announced, voice dripping triumph, that the Summer Gala would be held in Jake's backyard for the greater good of Cedar Grove. She even passed around glossy mock-ups with balloons and his pool photoshopped as the main stage. Mr. Thompson has graciously agreed to cooperate, she lied with a straight face. The room murmured. Jake stood up, voice steady. I have agreed to nothing. Karen's eyes flashed. The board voted. Section 4.7. Community benefit overrides private preference. The caterers arrived Friday. Jake just nodded once, sat down, and smiled the smallest, coldest smile. Inside, his mind was racing. She had just handed him the rope. That night, he watched the footage again. Karen's muttered confession about rewriting bylaws was gold. But he waited. Let her think she'd won. Let the trucks start rolling in with folding chairs and string lights. Let the neighbors show up to help string banners across his fence like it was their own damn house. Jake sat on his porch every evening, Lily beside him, watching the circus set up in his own yard. "Daddy, why are they decorating our pool?" she asked. He kissed her head. "Because some people think they own everything, baby. But they don't." The trap was set. Karen Voss had no idea the camera had already caught her red-handed. Friday night the trucks arrived like an invading army. Folding chairs stacked 10 high, catering vans blocking the street, volunteers humming while they draped fairy lights across Jake's fence without even asking. Karen directed traffic in a sun hat and megaphone like she was staging the Oscars. "Higher on the left. Yes, perfect. This will be the best gala Cedar Grove has ever seen." Jake watched from the porch, arms crossed, Lily inside doing homework. Every laugh from the setup crew felt like a slap. One neighbor actually asked him, "Hey, you mind if we run power through your outlet?" Jake just stared until the guy backed off. That night, after everyone left, Jake did what people still talk about in hushed tones. He didn't call the cops. He didn't file another complaint. At midnight, he walked out to the pool, flipped the valve, and started the drain. The water hissed and gurgled into the storm drain like the neighborhood's dirty little secret finally being let out. The pool groaned as the level dropped, the blue surface shrinking hour by hour until only concrete glistened under the moonlight. Jake stood there in the empty basin at 4 a.m., hands in pockets, feeling something unclench in his chest for the first time in months. It wasn't surrender. It was a line in the sand drawn in 6 feet of concrete. This was his boundary. Dawn broke like a circus coming to town. Karen led the parade of volunteers down the street, megaphone ready, expecting a sparkling centerpiece. The gate swung open. The chorus of oohs turned into one collective gasp. The pool was a dry, echoing hole, concrete shining like a stage after the final curtain. Karen's face went from triumphant to nuclear in half a second. "What the? Where's the water?" She spun on Jake, voice cracking. "You did this. You sabotaged the gala." Jake held up his phone, calm as Sunday morning. "No, Karen. You did. I just refused to let you steal what's mine." She lunged for the phone. Neighbors pulled out their own cameras. Someone whispered, "Is she crying?" But Karen wasn't done. In a fit of pure wounded ego, she screamed the words that ended her reign. "I make the rules around here. I rewrote the bylaws myself because the old ones weren't strong enough to control, enforce, standards." The words hung in the air like a confession on national television. Phones kept rolling. Jake just smiled. "Got it all on video, Karen. Including the part where you climbed my fence at 2 a.m. and broke my gate." Her face drained of color. The volunteers stepped back. The perfect suburban queen had just crowned herself the villain on camera in front of the entire block. The police showed up 20 minutes later because Karen called them herself, still screaming about vandalism. But when Jake calmly played the night vision footage on his phone for the officers, Karen trespassing, tampering, confessing, she went from accuser to suspect faster than you could say handcuffs. The county inspector arrived next. One look at the forged notices, the fake inspector badges, and the rewritten bylaws, and he called it in. Turned out Karen had been pulling the same playbook for years. Families who'd been fined into foreclosure, people threatened into selling cheap, so she could flip the houses through her brokerage. The pattern was textbook fraud. Neighbors who'd been too scared to speak suddenly found their voices. Mrs. Henderson admitted she'd lost her life savings to bogus fines. Mr. Patel quietly said his family had moved because of the harassment. One by one, they stepped forward with their own stacks of evidence. The HOA board dissolved on the spot. Karen's claws were pried off the community, one legal document at a time. The courtroom 3 months later was standing room only. Jake's lawyer laid out the recordings, the timestamps, The financial trail showing Karen had pocketed HOA event funds for her own spa days. The judge didn't even blink. The entire HOA operation was declared fraudulent. Karen was personally liable, banned from any board position for life, and ordered to pay restitution to every family she'd targeted, including a fat check that let Jake refill the pool and then some. When the gavel fell, the courtroom erupted. Strangers who'd become allies through shared anger hugged Jake like he'd freed them all. Lily stood on a chair waving her little sign that read, "Daddy won." 2 weeks later, the empty pool basin hosted the first real community gathering Cedar Grove had seen in years. No banners, no megaphone, no queen. Just a barbecue. Kids turning the concrete into a giant chalk playground. Laughter echoing where fear used to live. Jake flipped burgers while neighbors who once crossed the street now clapped him on the back. Someone asked if he'd run for HOA president. He laughed. Nah, power corrupts. We tried that already. Instead, they voted in a simple rotation. No president, just neighbors talking like adults. The scar of what happened became the seed of something honest. I still walk past that house and smile. The pool is full again, Lily cannonballing like nothing ever happened. But the real victory isn't the water. It's the reminder that bullies only have power as long as you stay silent. Jake gathered proof, drew his line, and refused to bend. And when Karen's empire cracked, the whole neighborhood finally breathed free. So yeah, that's the story of how one drained pool took down a suburban dictator. If you're fighting your own HOA, Karen, right now, remember, document everything, wait for the right moment, and never let them own what's yours. Stand your ground. The ha-he when they fall is worth every single second.